and Commissioner Mike Hughes, Commissioner Cindy Slater, and Mayor Davis. And I'd like to welcome all the guests and some special guests here. We got some guys that's from some young men from Leaf Academy, and we're going to have a young man to do the prayer for us. His name is Mr. Wheeler. Christian Wheeler's going to be doing the prayer. If y'all would stand.
Dear Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you that you gave me a second chance with Leaf. Thank you that you're going to help the board administrators to make the right decisions that follow your will. Thank you for everything you've done for me and my family. In your name, amen.
Amen.
And if Tyson Pettis and Jeremy Wade would lead us in the pledge.
Stand, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got the approvals of the October 21st agenda.
Second.
Going seconded. If you would call Rose, please. Who's calling Rose?
All those in favor.
Is it all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
So be. All right, on our first agenda A, if Judge Collins would, Judge Morgan would come up. If you'll come up to the mic, Judge Morgan, I am so sorry. I was thinking Denny Collins, sorry.
I know we're both tall, but I am far better looking.
Sorry about that. I was
Just saying.
thinking Denny.
Golly, I am not
Forgive me,
from California, sir.
thinking me, Judge.
That could be worse.
man.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
Thank you, boys, for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd hate to go in front of him as a judge now.
No doubt.
Probably just-
It's our LEAF program is, it's been 30 years now, and this year is no different. We had 19 graduate, and I tell you, those 19 really worked their butts off. I stopped by and saw them one day before I had to go up to Boston for my wife's procedure, and they really had whipped them into shape. They lined them up. You'd have thought these guys were at boot camp in Paris Island. I mean, they had them lined up, ready to go, and the respect that they showed that day was it was very moving. The fact that, you have these kids that have some of these problems, and they listen to these folks, and that program would be nothing without these folks right here. They do an amazing job, and I can't commend them enough. Very proud of them. So, guys, we've got a lot of things coming up on the agenda. Starting in probably, we think, October, we're going to have recovery court. We're waiting on you guys to approve some budgets, but that program is something we used to have that we are now bringing back. Mayor Davis's office and Adam have been great to help us out with that process. But we're going to be able to treat children that have addiction issues. We have already hired a new person for what was formerly called our behavior unit. That person's also going to oversee recovery court. We're going to have services in the home. We're going to have these folks actually go out and see these children and be able to give services to them and their family and help overcome addiction. I know I set a special judge in that court years ago when we still had it, and it's another one of the programs that truly I feel like works. So I'm really looking forward to that implementation. Safe Baby Court is another one that we have. That started out at the state level. We had, up until this year, I think we had 14 counties that had a Safe Baby Court. What that is it's a court that focuses on prevention. It tries to keep families together. It tries to keep young children, 0 to 3, in the home. Some of these cases are cases where DCS is already involved and have a case pending. Some of them are cases where DCS is actively working with a family. But the whole purpose is to have the court walk alongside, much like in drug court or recovery court, walk alongside these families, provide services to them, and help them overcome whatever issue is plaguing them so that these children can grow up in the home and actually be able to have success. Statistically speaking, the other programs that the state has had in this area and other counties have been phenomenal. I've talked to judges that were in other counties that actually had started the programs in their counties, been learning a lot from them. We actually have a meeting on Friday with the AOC to get more details, get more information about our budget. And at that point, our process would be to hire a coordinator for Safe Baby Court through this grant and implement the pieces that we have. Well, part of that in recovery court, Shannon Doan, as some of you all know, was over with us at the behavior unit for years. Did a great job. Well, she has taken a job with the county, working as I'm going to get it wrong, but basically a social worker with the county schools under a federal grant that they have gotten. And as much as we're going to miss her, I'm taking this opportunity to fulfill a campaign promise. One thing that I have always felt that we needed to do at juvenile court is expand our services. I think what we need to do is we need to have that behavior unit, which we're renaming, do more than just mental health. It needs to be more holistic. Commissioner Goins, if I asked you what's going on in your life today and you told me something, it could be, I've got, this health issue that's bothering me. I'm stressed out about it. Well, how do you fix a health issue? Go to see a doctor. How do you fix an issue with your income? You get help with rent, you get a better paying job, you go to college. There's a solution to most of our problems that also contribute to our mental health. So what I'm looking for is us to make partners that we've already started doing with nonprofits, churches, individuals in the community, businesses, so that if, let's say, Commissioner Goins comes in and has a child that needs help with X, Y, and Z, we have a partner for that. We can make a referral over to this nonprofit that's already doing the Lord's work. Let's put our kids with that nonprofit to do whatever it is they need. As part of that, we've also increased our community service program. We've made a great partner with the Salvation Army. They have been just phenomenal as far as they're walking along with us and our children. And just looking at that one part, just this one partner, Vicki, we've had what? I'd say 30, 40 kids go through that program already, at least. And there's not been one person that has come back and had a negative experience with it. We've partnered with the Miracle League. We had spring baseball. We're about to start the fall ball here in just a few weeks. Those types of things help these children so much. So it's not just the community service. It's not just the mental health, but it's also just a referral over to the caring place for some goods. Coats with kids at Christmas. Maybe we have a kid that needs a jacket. Just having those partnerships, I think, could be huge as far as helping some of these families. So that's one thing that we're going to be doing up there. I'm not asking for any extra money for any of this. I'm just telling you that that's a direction that we're going to be going. To make all that work, we have implemented a system we've been working on for a while now. It's called Unite TN. And basically what that is it's a referral-based software. It's free, where we can actually have our partners onboarded onto that system, and we can use it to digitally send referrals out to these providers. So that is something that can actually make this a very efficient program. So we don't have any need for more positions. Speaking of position changes, as I said, we lost Miss Doan to the county schools. We also lost Josh Gann, who was a huge asset to our program. He was a youth service officer. He's also going to work for the county in a similar type, I think it's more supervisory role. Our magistrate is also leaving to go take a full-time position over at the 12th Judicial District Public Defender's Office. She'd been working part-time over there, but unfortunately with all three of these positions, they're all leaving because they have better paying jobs. The state pays public defenders better than we can. So she's leaving for that better paying job. Ms. Doan and Mr. Gann, same type of situation. This county, the county schools are paying them more than I can pay. We tried to keep them, but unfortunately the money's just not there. I'm not telling you all that for anything more than just a temperature check to let you all know that we are competing with the Department of Children's Services primarily for most of our front office positions. And it's hard to do when they are getting paid $20,000+ more than I'm able to pay. Just making you all aware of that. Now, I say all that to move forward. Where do we go from here? You all might have seen on Facebook, I made a post telling the world that we had met all of the promises that I had made during the election. We did that. 11 months in, we're already there. So now what do? What I believe we do is we strengthen those bonds first and foremost. We turn our attention toward more sites. We look at strengthening partnerships, as I said, but one thing that I want to put in your head, not asking for it today, but what I'm wanting us to take a serious look at is a new juvenile justice center. The one we have, candidly, once we have Safe Baby Court in, we do not have any room for that person. When we hire for that position, I do not have an office available for that person. I'm putting my assistant in my office to try to create some space. But between recovery court and that, we just don't have the room. We rented out space to blended recovery because of the fact that they provide services that we are going to need for recovery court, that we're going to need for Safe Baby Court. And having them in the building is a huge boon for those programs, not to mention juvenile as a whole. So at some point, I would like to have a serious discussion about what that looks like. Now, as a conservative Republican who cares about taxpayer dollars, I would tell you that I think there are some ways we can do it. I think if we step back and we take a look at what happened with the Pie Center, how that worked, we have enough partners that do the types of things that we need, mental health providers. We have other nonprofits that work with the court system, that if we created a juvenile justice center that was forward thinking, we could have rentals out to them, much like we have the Pie Center, and have them directly partner with us in that endeavor. So I think that we could offset some of our cost by the rentals to folks like Blended Recovery. CASA might be someone who would want to come with us. We've not discussed it because we clearly don't have a plan for a building. Not going to talk about rentals with somebody when there's not even a plan in place. But if we could bring some of those folks who deal with juvenile court into the building, now we can just say, hey, court's over. I'm going to have you go see this provider right down the hall, third door on the left. For many of our families, we have families every week that walk to court. That is not an uncommon thing. I remember when I was practicing, I had a family that walked 10 miles to come to court in the rain in December. I was representing them. That's not something that you see many people do, but it happens on a weekly basis. We have somebody who's getting there through those types of means. We have families who don't have any money and they're paying someone to bring them to court. So I've tried to be mindful of that when we set hearings, when we allow them to participate by Zoom, try to be cognizant of people's needs. The other thing I would point out is we haven't had an increase in the court costs a decade or more. Right now, a civil case is $101.25. That's how much it costs to take one out. There are two statutes that we were looking over that actually, one would allow up to $25 per case that would actually go to court security. So that would actually be something earmarked specifically by statute for the court security, which would free up money that could be used in other ways. There's another statute that allows another $25 that we could charge that would come in. Last estimate, we have in my court alone about 7,000, 8,000 cases per year that are filed. I'll let you guys do the math, but you're looking, if you had that $50 to 300 to 7,000 cases, my math pulls that up at $350,000 a year. It's a pretty good drop in the bucket toward debt service. So those are some conversations I'd like to have that directly impact you all in the future. I know Mayor Davis and I've mentioned it to him, and he mentioned that they had built some of the detention center 20 years ago, and that's fine. My problem is juvenile statutes require closed hearings for our cases. It also requires things like that children shouldn't be in shackles, things of that sort. The problem is I can't do those things. Courtroom's too small and too large for both of those. I don't have places for people to stay. I can't have closed hearings. It's not conducive to truly handling juvenile practice, juvenile court, the way that the statutes actually are written. So it's one of those that I would like to have this conversation with you all over the next few years, develop a plan and consider it. If it turns into a situation where we need to build onto the facility, let's have that discussion. But we're also going to have to talk about parking if we don't do anything else. Yesterday, we had 63 cases on the docket. And if it wasn't for the fact that I have a spot that figuratively has my name on it, I wouldn't have had a place to park. Right now, people are parking on the grass and on the mounds up at the top level. During COVID, and when we had court over there, or during the fire, when we had court over there, they were parking at the animal facility parking. We're going to have to do something at some point about some of it. And candidly, given best practices in bankruptcy court, I prefer to do everything involving juveniles over there, especially if children are going to be present, because of the environment that we can control over there versus coming to court and how things are handled in a courthouse. It's a in best practices, we can handle it over there better and easier than we can do it over here. We have more control over there of the environment, what they see, the people that are around it. So if you're wondering why I've moved everything over there, that's why. It's something that we have more control over the things these children need to be seeing. So beyond that, guys, we're just going to keep working hard. As many of you know, my wife's had some health issues and I've had to be out, but for the time she was actually in the hospital that week following surgery, I handled everything on Zoom. It's worked. It's not ideal, but I'm not going to let a day go by with us falling behind. Not done that, not going to do that. I have picked a new magistrate. We'll announce who that is later this week, but I think that folks will be happy with that selection. I've got a lot of faith in that person to help us out on the cases that we just aren't able to handle because of our size. And just today, I've worked out an agreement with Judge Collins as well as our court clerk, Gayla Miller, to help us redistribute the order of protection docket a little bit so that we can have the orders of protections that involve criminal actions that actually have been charged actually be heard by Judge Collins. And that way we have judicial economy. He's not hearing something and then I'm hearing it. Like today he heard something Thursday, I heard the order of protection today. That's not economical for anyone. So we've worked that out, and I have a great feeling of where we're heading, especially with our change with the behavior. If you all have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to hear those at this point, or if you all want me to at another time. As always, you all can call me at any time.
Does anybody have any questions for Judge?
All right. Not like Mile and Blake to be quiet, so I wasn't sure.
That's what I was wondering.
I know. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's nothing to vote on there, is there? All right, the next agenda will be E and F, be by Miss Beatty. By Vicky Towns, I'm sorry.
Lori tells me I can sit right here and do it.
Hey, if
So I'm
Lori
gonna
says
sit
so,
right
it's all
here.
right with me.
If Lori says it, then it's.
That's
it
exactly,
is
that's kind of
what it
like
is.
you and Judge
That's right.
Morgan.
So I'm just going to talk about two things. One is the truancy, and I hope, I'm telling y'all, I've been talking about this for probably 5 years. I hope this is the last agenda that this is on, but I did want to give y'all the final status of that. Judge Morgan's talked a lot about it, and so we have met with both county and city SROs, and we've met with both county and city principals and attendance directors for schools. And so what happened with the help of Kevin Raper, and I will say I'm not sure that we could have gotten what we did without Kevin. He has been like a huge component of this. He connected us with a young lady in Nashville who helped us write a plan that we presented to the Commissioner of Education, and the Commissioner of Education approved it. And so we changed what is called, y'all have heard me refer to it many times, the tier system that reform gave us. We actually are able to put campus court in at the second level instead of the third level. And so that's going to change things dramatically. It's going to put us in a whole lot sooner. So those cases that we're hope that logistically, those cases that we're taking till, anywhere from 9 to 15 absences to get to campus court, now we can get at 3 to 5. Really, realistically 5. And so it's going to cut a lot of things out that the school system has to do. One of my complaints about this was that there was basically no fiscal bill with this, and so when they created this law, They didn't create money to pay schools or people in the schools in order to have somebody to actually do this. This in and of itself is a full-time job for every single school because of all the red tape you have to go through. So we cut all that out basically, and our mediators will be going in at the second level, and the process is similar, but we can get in a whole lot quicker. And so we're hoping that this actually may become a model across the state of Tennessee. The commissioner wants some statistics and stuff at the end of this year. And so if that happens, they may implement some of these ideas in other counties. And we've already been contacted by a few counties to provide our plan to them so that they can implement it and mirror what we're doing. So this is a win for us. It's a win for the school system, and it's a win for the kids, because the bottom line is we want the kids to be educated. And in order to educate them, they got to be sitting in some seats. And if they're not sitting in the seats, then we're not getting anything done. And so I hope, I will say, I will not say 100%, because as soon as I do, something will happen, but I'm 99.9% sure today's the last day you're going to hear me talk about truancy, because I'm hoping that it's effective. So I did want to update y'all, because the commissioners that have been on the commission that have worked through this, thank you for going to bat for us and to make those connections. You all have talked to committees, you've talked to representatives, and that has been a huge help for us. So I appreciate that. Yes.
That's good news, Vicki. We have been working on that quite a bit. Just on the tier system,
Yes.
when we were told about that, and we talked to you and the others about that, if I remember correctly, it almost allowed a student to go about 50, 60 days before anything could be done at your level, as far as them being out. If I understood the tier system, we've always said that if the tier system is good for other counties, so be it, but let us decide our own. Is that kind of what happened?
Yes, because what happens is some other counties don't have a campus court. They had nothing. So the tier system for them at least gave them something. For us, we had campus court. We had people that could go in, for instance, and sit down with that family that it may just be a bus incident. It may be that the parents are putting them on the wrong bus and nobody ever communicated that. And so by our mediators sitting down and saying, okay, what bus are they on, and talking to, like with the county, it'd be Terry McElhaney, talking with him and finding out those things and that information, it cuts a lot of that out. So yes, we were getting some with absences by the time they come to us with excessive amounts of absences.
So that's gone.
We are, in theory, we are saying
I'll
yes.
take
and
theory.
we're hoping, yes, we're we should know in the next couple of months how it's filtering down. The good thing is the commissioner has kind of given us some leadway with, if something's not working, I can send something to her and revamp it. And so she's been very, very helpful.
With respects to the campus court and how it was funded, a while ago, it was kind of like 1/3 came from the city and 2/3 from the counties. That they a while back, that's how it was.
Back,
Yeah, and
yes.
didn't that kind of stuff.
All of it's in our budget now.
So the all campus court is 100% in your budget.
We have two staff members. We have a mediator and a facilitator, and both of those are in our budget. They've been in our budget for a couple of years now.
Well, thank you very much for working hard on that. I
Sure.
appreciate it. It's good news. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The other thing, and I just like to let you all know, because I think this is important to highlight different staff members. You know, because it's not about me sitting here, it's about our staff. And, you know, this is not detention, but just to point out, we have some of our leaf staff that are YSOs here, and Josh Radford, who is going to take Shannon's place upstairs with the behavior unit, and then Ben Absher, he is Judge Morgan's right-hand man. It's not just about one person, it's about all of us. And so I want to make sure that they're pointed out today, and the importance of them. But our detention center very rarely gets highlighted, and so I like to highlight them. And we had every year we have so many unannounced visits, and then we have an announced visit. And that means they come to our detention center, they walk through, they check our files, they check how clean our facility is. They talk to the kids that are in detention to find out how they're being treated. There's a whole bunch of things that they do for us to be in compliance. And so back in May, we had that was our last unannounced visit. And so with that unannounced visit, we had 0 findings. That means that there was nothing for us to improve on. There was nothing faulted. The facility was cleaned. It was a very positive report from them. And so I always like to highlight them because they are the behind the scenes people that do a hard job. And even when our counts are low, they are cleaning our facility, they are painting, they are doing extra things that they really don't have to do, but it helps us in saving money in our budget for us to do. So there were no findings with this unannounced visit per the document. And so I just wanted you all to know that the youth reviews, the youth that they talked to in detention, everything was positive, everything was good, there were no findings. And so I think that's really stellar for us because, not all detentions get that anymore. And our detention centers are so overrun with kids in so many other counties. And so for us, we take a lot of pride in what we do have. Like Judge Morgan said, there's a lot of things, futuristically that we know we're looking at. But one of the things is the building that we do have and the staff that we do have absolutely take care of everything. And they take a lot of pride in that. And so I want to highlight the detention center today just for that 0 finding and for all the positive remarks that the state of Tennessee made about our detention centers. So I think that says a lot about our county. So that's all I have, unless y'all have any questions for me. Ms. Slater?
What is your population right now?
This morning, I believe we had 7 kids over there. And it's kind of one of those open-ended questions because we may have 7 today, and I may walk in the morning and we have 14. It's just the nature of the beast, and with the state of Tennessee and their problems of finding placements to hold. Obviously, y'all know we're a holding facility. Sometimes we can have 5 state kids. Sometimes we may just have 1. So it's like one of those roller coaster rides. But right now we have, I believe there was 7 this morning when I checked the list.
And what is the max number that you can hold at any given time?
We can hold 27, yes.
And if you were to build a new facility in the coming years, what would you build that? What would you want the population to be for the new building? What would you like to be able to hold?
I'll let you field that.
So it's complicated, and part of that is something that I want to talk to the state about. On our side, I think 27 is a reasonable figure, so around the same size we already have as far as that. But I want to talk to the state because in looking at some other counties, other states, 2 things that I'd like the state to pay for is a respite care facility. Because we have several situations where we have kids who come in, and the problem isn't a long-term issue with mom and dad, where mom and dad are just giving them up, or they have a drug issue or whatever. Sometimes it's a situation where we really need to just separate them for a while, but the child doesn't really rise to the point where we can detain them, but we don't have anywhere to safely put them. So I would love to see the state come in and pay for us to have a respite care portion of our facility. I would also love to see, if you've been reading the Tennessean for the past year, you know that DCS has a whole host of issues. I don't know if you're aware, but for the duration of my time on the bench, we've had on average about 3 kids sleeping on the floor at DCS offices. Been up in Meigs County because they've been under construction here, but they're fixed. Haven't heard a recent number of what it is, but 3 has been the average. I would love for the state to have a regional dependency and neglect housing facility and make it part of our building. That's what I would love to see. Again, if I had my dream of what we have, because you can actually have, if we had all three of these facilities and you did it right, you could have it where we had state funding and some of our folks who are taking care of all of this and have different effectively levels. One for detention, one for respite, and one for DNN. And I think that that would be a good thing. But the thing is because these are state kids, I think that the state should be the one paying for that cost. And that's something that I plan to talk to Senator Lowe and Gardenhire and Howell and Raper about. And honestly, Bradley County would be the one that I'd say needs to have it. Hamilton County has enough issues. Let's not have that issue. But for the Bradley, Polk, McMinn, Monroe, Meigs, I mean, those types of counties, we would be a perfect spot to do something like that so that kids are actually sleeping in beds, not sleeping on cots on the floor at an office. So to answer your question, that would be my dream. That's what I would shoot for. But as far as our size, as far as detention, I think we're about right. I don't really see. Now, I will tell you this. We did have a case yesterday that we've been dealing with for a month now, it feels like. A child that has been engaged in gang activity. So that issue's coming. I mean, it's there. So that's my only caveat. If Hamilton County keeps bleeding over this way and Knox County keeps coming down this way, that's something that we really have to be aware of. And we've got gang training into this month, so we'll probably have some updates for them. But today, I feel like that's a safe figure. So.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Anybody else? Anybody else?
I
Molly?
have one question, but it's not related to that. Did you get your vehicle?
We did.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank y'all.
We did. And I should have pointed out, and I forgot, one of the most important people, Melita, as part of our staff too, because I appointed the staff here. So I just wanted to highlight Melita as well, because she does a lot of work, and she did a lot of work on the vehicle. So, yes, we did get it, and it's wonderful. We're working on getting the cage put in and all the stuff that has to be put into it now. So thank you all for doing that.
Judge Morgan and Vicky, one thing I can really encourage you on is you're doing a good job, but one thing I can encourage you on, keep this board informed of what you're doing, because there's some of the things you've talked that I've not heard, or probably none of the others. Some may have heard, but keep us informed. Keep us in the loop. We want to know what's going on. All of us love kids just as much as y'all do, and we want to help you. And if you would, please just let us know what's going on.
And I will say,
We'll work
a
every
lot
way.
of this stuff literally has happened in the last week or two, like say baby court. Some of those things we just didn't know we got approval until recently. And that was one of the real reasons for the committee meeting.
You've got some amazing ideas and some ways to pay for it. And Mayor Davis, I'm sure, he's the number one person we need to involve in this, because he's the guidance that we take in the commission. So if you'll just make sure he knows what's going on.
Well, and I'll say that I'll be the one to take the blame as far as not having a meeting. Oh, sorry. And I'll say that we were wanting to have a meeting at an earlier point this year, but as many of y'all know, my wife's had
That's
4
we've been
surgeries
praying
this
for her.
year, so I've not been as available as I want to be. So that's really hindered us as far as being able to get with you guys and do that. But no, I appreciate that. You guys have always just been wonderful to us. And we've got so many great partners. So thank you guys for walking with our kids, and I appreciate everything you guys do.
We like to thank you and your whole staff, man. Y'all are amazing. It's amazing
really
what you do for the kids of Bradley County.
Mr. Gilbert, I would like to point out one thing we didn't point out, and I'm afraid to have left, but I see Mom sitting back here. I just want to point out that the parents play a pivotal role.
Yes.
And, I think that seeing Mom here has shown how important it is to her son that Mom's here and Mom has stayed and listened to everything. And so those kids that graduated Leaf, we like to point out the parental part of that as well. And so I just want to acknowledge Mom being here, that she, we had all 3 of the young men had parents with them. So, I don't want that to go unnoticed, because the parents are very important in this process.
Absolutely. I think that's the greatest part. You're talking about getting parents involved. And if you can get a parent involved, man, it's unreal what you can get done with the child, especially sometimes the parents is the one that needs help. They're the ones that need straightened out more than the kids.
Well, and honestly, that's one of the things we're doing is with the mentorship program, we're actually doing it for adults too. And I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I assigned a mentor through CASA to a parent because honestly, not everybody was born with the ability or not everybody was raised by parents who are amazing. Right. And so sometimes you don't always have good role models. Sometimes you don't have people in your life that have those skills. So by doing this, sometimes we have parents that walk along, and sometimes you have great parents, wonderful parents, but they're going through something. And so by appointing a mentor to them, it gives them someone to lean on and walk alongside during a dark time. So I think you're entirely right. And that's one of the things that we're looking at with this new incarnation of behavior unit is let's look at the whole family and figure out what we can do to help. And more importantly, what we can do to make referrals out to people who know what they're doing to help. So I think you hit the nail on the head.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mayor?
So, in addition to the car, you also have money for courtroom renovation. How's that coming?
Well, we're holding off on everything until the first of the year for the capital expenditures. We're not doing anything until.
Well, you can on that.
Okay.
Since it's ARP, you can.
Okay.
So,
well, we have
proceed.
been getting quotes just so we know who to be looking at. What we're trying to do, let me get back to this. What we're trying to do is, as many of you know, during COVID, the benches were heavily damaged due to tape and cleaners and things of that sort. So what we're looking at doing is replacing those with chairs, much like you have at some of the bigger churches, as well as carpeting, flooring, I should say. Looking at doing LVP flooring, something that's a little more, holds up a little bit better. And beyond that, I think the only real thing that we're doing cosmetically is trying to resurface the bench and paint. Just make it, get rid of some of the problems it's had over the years. And if you guys haven't noticed, I'm a little taller than many of our former judges, so I've asked them to do away with the platform so I can fit under the bench a little easier. Right now we've removed the drawer, but I tell you, it hurts when you hit your knee on that thing. So, sorry, a little too tall.
Anybody else? Is there any other business? Anybody? Comments from communication from the audience. Is there any one of y'all out there that'd like to step up and say something? Mom, you're welcome to. You have the floor. Don't want to put you on the spot, but. Wow. Ladies? Anybody else? All right. Reckon this meeting's adjourned.